We are back with another episode of the Hogsty. It's a jam-packed episode with a training camp report, roster moves, and a look at attendance at training camp in Richmond. All that and more next on the Hogsty.
Welcome to the Hogsty with your crew, Adam Terresti, Alex Zeese, Sean Conti, and Steve Thomas. And now, here's your host, Sean Conti.
And we are back with another episode of the Hogsty. I am very clearly not Sean Conti. Sean is otherwise indisposed today. I'm Steve Thomas, but I'm joined as always by Jamal. How are you, Jamal?
Steve, I'm doing all right today. Dealing with a headache right now, but that's mainly because I haven't ate and I just got done with practice.
And
so I rushed in the house and get ready to get on this show and get some work done.
Well, yeah, and you're probably dehydrated from being out in the sun all day in Richmond. I would assume it was a long day for you.
That is also a good point. That might be the case.
Alex is also out today, but we are joined by Montel from All 32 fame. How are you, Montel?
Man, I can't complain too much. It's been a nice weekend. I'm just here to ready drop some knowledge on.
Absolutely.
This your debut on the Hogsty.
Yes, sir. And everybody's going to see.
Yeah, you're a Hogsty virgin. Well, we're very happy to have you. Hogsty virgin, I said. I wouldn't go anywhere else without you. All right, well, let's start off with we have a bunch of roster moves, so we thought we'd start off with that here today. The Redskins obviously lost Keith Marshall to injured reserve for the second year in a row. Somewhat tragically. They cut Josh Evans. We lost Earl Wolf. Who am I forgetting? I'm forgetting one other. Lou Young. We cut Lou Young. Lou, we hardly knew you. He was here a blink of an eye, did nothing, and now he's gone. So, God bless you, Lou. But in his place, we have... to start with, to replace Keith Marshall is Kenny Hilliard from LSU. He is 6'2", 232, averaged about 5.2 yards rushing in college, graduated in 2014, has kind of bounced around the NFL a little bit, was with the Texans. Anybody have any words of wisdom about Kenny Hilliard? I'm guessing not.
No words of wisdom. I do know from yesterday though, he definitely stood out. He made his presence known on one rep. I think it was actually one of the only few reps that he had yesterday where he went in. I think between the right tackle and right guard and just lowered his shoulder and got a big boom at the pass cracking. So it was definitely he definitely brought the contact yesterday. Big back, physical back, he showed it.
Yep.
I mean, I personally am higher on our running back situation than probably national analysts are, because I'm as you are, Montel. I don't know how you feel, or Jamal. I don't know how you feel, Montel, about it, but I'm a big Rob Kelly fan. I think he's talented. I'm a Mac Brown fan, and this guy Kenny Hilliard. I mean, who knows? I mean, he averaged 5.2 yards rushing in college, which, in terms of college rushers is kind of average. The elite rushers are up in the 6 range. But I'm excited about the potential about that group.
Yeah, I'm a little higher on our running back group as well. You got guys there that haven't been given opportunities or minimal opportunities and made the most of them. You look at a guy, as you mentioned, Mac Brown. Last year, he was a preseason All-Star. And unfortunately, I've seen this happen before with the Redskins. I'm going to take you back to 2003. You had a guy named Suton McCullough, who was a preseason All-Star and never really got a chance to show what he could do in the regular season. But Mac Brown has become that to me. And I'm like, we're signing all these guys. Granted, I understand Marshall's injury, so you got to bring in more bodies to compete. But I think you got to give some guys chances. Like you said, I like Rob. You can't really give up on him. And I kind of feel like, and I know Jamal, he's going to get on me for this. I kind of feel like we gave up on Alf a little bit. And you gave Rob a chance last year, and he produced. You can't just give up on him. And you're bringing in a guy like P. Ryan. Now Rob is looking over his shoulder. And I'm hearing good things about P. Ryan. But, you can't give up on these guys who produce. I know it may not be the prettiest, but they are producing.
Yeah, and Jay Gruden loves P. Ryan. But before we get into that, let's run through the last of the roster
Alfred Morris sucks to deal with.
Come on, man. Alfred Morris, Alfred
I'm
Morris.
just playing, man. He knows what's going
Alfred
on.
Morris is.
He had issues here his last couple years here. That's
Of
all.
course,
Yeah, I
of
mean,
course.
his problem ultimately was his production kept, going down and down and down.
Right.
But I'll just quote this about Kenny Hilliard, and then we'll move on. Lance Zierlein, who I frequently quote on this show, said, "Lacks elusiveness, doesn't carry enough power behind his pads to create any intrigue, unlikely to break into rotation in the pros." So,
Mm.
He made sure he was listening to it yesterday.
Yeah.
That one rep, I heard it from the sideline. That motherfucker was loud.
well,
He brought it. I think it was him and Nico Marley.
yeah, well, there's a fan favorite, Nico Marley. But Mr. and Mrs. Hilliard, if you're listening, your son has a long road to hoe. Jeremiah Jeremiah McKinnon, cornerback, Florida International. He's 5'11", 190. He's running about a 4.5 or so. Had 104 tackles in college. I know absolutely nothing about this guy other than what I just said. And he floated around the Titans practice squad for a while. Last year he was with the Cowboys. Other than that, good luck to Mr. McKinnon.
Yeah, I don't have much.
No.
Absolutely nothing.
Stephon McClure from Cal, 5'11", 205. He's sort of a combo DB. He's played some corner. He's played some safety. The thing about McClure, he's a little interesting guy. If you look back into his past, he was actually pretty highly recruited coming into college. He's known as he was a team captain, known as a leader. Injuries slowed him down more than anything. He had a torn ACL and a torn meniscus, both in college, and so that kind of ruined his collegiate career and turned him into the undrafted free agent prospect. So he may have potential if assuming his health is there. But that is Stephon McClure, and then Tim Scott is the last guy we signed, 5'11", 190. Played. He's really more of a corner. Out of North Carolina, 218 tackles in college, so he was productive in college. He's also in sort of the 4.5, 4 to 4.5 to mid 4.5 range. So that's Tim Scott. He's bounced around with the Cowboys and the Browns. And the fact that you're cut from the Cleveland Browns perhaps doesn't say much about you, but it is what it is. So those are the roster moves. Now, we have a poll question that's going to lead into Jamal's camp report. So let's and Montel, just so I know, what we do with this camp report or with the poll is I'm going to read it. I'm going to read the options, and then you're going to guess what the fans think, and also what you would have voted for. So that's how we do this. The poll question this week was, what Redskins player do you think is having the best camp so far? Junior Gillette, Terrell Pryor, Trent Williams, or other, the ubiquitous other. So let's start with Jamal. Jamal, what do you think? Did you see the results this week?
I want to say I did, but I really don't remember, honestly. So I'm gonna just go with what I chose, and I chose Junior Gillette. I don't know. I'm assuming that they chose them. They chose him too. Actually, now I think about it, Junior Gillette.
Junior Gillette. All right.
Yeah.
Montel, what do you think?
I'm going to say that, fans love fresh faces, and I think a lot of fans are going to go with Terrell Pryor. Now, I've been keeping up with camp from afar, and I've been seeing a lot of Terrell Pryor flash across the screen and his name pop up in a lot of the radio shows. So I think a lot of the fans are gonna really root and cheer for a new face. So I'm gonna go with TP.
Yeah, I think so. I think I have the answers in front of me, but I would probably have voted for Junior Gillette if I was going to vote. Just because he's coming back from injury. He's. I have a lot to say about Gillette. We'll save it. But Terrell Pryor won the poll here this week by a vote of 61%. He was first, and I think you're probably exactly right, Montel. He's sort of fresh in fans' minds. Junior Gillette was second with 27%. I threw Trent in there because Trent's always good, and I've seen a lot of good stuff with Trent this week. But at this point, he's such a rock that I think fans kind of take him for granted somewhat. He had 7%, and then 5% other. And of course, you guys who voted 5% didn't tell me why you voted other, so thanks a lot. It's pretty much a useless vote. We got a bunch of comments here. I'm not going to read all these because it would take too long. But as we always do, if we get comments from females, we have to read them because we don't get a lot of comments from females on this show. So this is Crystal Reynolds, who is at Crystal_McR. She says. Gillette hasn't played a snap in a Redskins game, has been plagued by injuries, yet he's out there giving his all. Respect. So that was Crystal's comment. I assume she voted for Gillette. Kevin Tucker Jr. at Glassback82. Terrell is showing he's a true monster and a hardworking guy. He'll be top 10 wide receiver this season. Should get a long contract. I think that probably represents a significant... the views of a significant number of fans out there. And then last but not least, Jesse Jr. Lim, who is at ROTGM_photo, whatever that means. And he says, Pryor without a doubt, careful though, have to perform on Sunday or it don't mean anything. So that is Jesse's comment. And of course, he's absolutely right about that. You know, all the Instagram videos in the world don't really mean much if you can't produce. So...
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So why don't we start off with, Jamual was at training camp representing the Hogstye yesterday, August 5th, Saturday. Why don't you start off with your general thoughts, Jamual, and tell us what you saw.
All right. Well, I remember, Steve, that I was talking to you via Twitter with one of our listeners, and I was telling you that the first time I was down there, I felt that the defense had gotten the best of the offense.
Right.
And that was, really the case for, the most part that I was down there. And that's more so a lot of credit to the defense. It looks like they've been playing well. Today, more sort of different story. Overall, I think that the offense played better. They played a lot of situationals in the red zone. I think they came away with, first and foremost, let me tell you something.
Please do.
I noticed I tweeted the fade route. They ran a fade route, a back shoulder fade, by the way, to Josh Doxson. The ones I'm talking about, they ran a back shoulder fade to Josh Doxson. Came away with a touchdown. I think it was the second play of the drive. The first play it didn't get them nowhere, I believe, but they threw the back shoulder fade with Josh Doxson. I think that's one of the things that we have to look forward to in terms of how they can implement, their schemes and strategies in the red zone this season. We played with Pierre Garçon and we played with Deshaun Jackson last year as our number one and number two wideouts. Now, and then we had Jamison Crowder at 3. These guys are averaging like 5'9", 5'10" feet tall. We have a receiving core now that's, first off, athletic.
Yes, sir.
And they have range. Terrell Pryor he's caught a couple passes in the red zone already in their red zone drills. Josh Doxson is making plays out there. There's a different element to the red zone offense when you have weapons who are not only tall, but they're athletic as well, and they have the go-get-it ability. So yesterday in the red zone, they made some plays. I think Kirk Cousins and his offense, the ones went 3 for 3 in the red zone yesterday. Overall, though, the offense is looking good. Terrell Pryor, I tweeted out a video of him where he was putting double moves out on people.
Yeah.
Bashard Breeland specifically.
He turned Rashad all around. Was that the one you said was Swearinger at first, and was because you saw 20,
yeah, it was
36,
Swearinger, but I realized
it was 26. Yeah, I mean that one, that video, he turned Rashad Breeland completely around. It looked like, really just broke wide open.
And it was so crisp. It was like the route was so crisp, and that's one of the knacks one of the issues that people have about him before he came here was that his route running still wasn't up to par yet. But, because of the fact that he's an athlete, he's a 4'4" or 4'3" guy at 6'5", he's 230. He has the tools to be a number one receiver. And over the time that I've been here, he's definitely shown that he's been a number one receiver. He's not just making plays in one-on-ones. He's made plays in full team drills consistently.
Well, let's talk about this for a minute.
He's made plays over the middle and everything too. So
let's talk about this for a second. Because you mentioned, is Terrell Pryor number one receiver? First of all, let's talk about what we lost. If you combine Pierre Garçon and Deshaun Jackson together in 2016, They had 214 targets, 135 receptions, 2,046 yards, and 7 touchdowns. And then 2014, which was the other year that Deshaun was healthy, because remember, he missed a bunch of games in 2015. It was about the
Yeah.
same 200 targets, 123 receptions, 1,920 yards, 21 yards, and 9 touchdowns. That's a lot of production to lose, and certainly Pryor put up about half of that with the Browns last year, with just an atrociously awful quarterback situation, you know. But let's talk about Pryor. I really like to get you guys' opinion because, as you guys know, in
Yeah.
preview to the audience, I have about 1,600 words now on Terrell Pryor ready to go for probably Monday or Tuesday. And really sort of the fundamental question was, can Terrell Pryor be a number one wide receiver? And the first obvious question is, what exactly is a number one receiver? Number one. And number two, can he do it? Jamal, you just said you think he is a number one wide receiver. Why? Let's talk about it.
Well, first and foremost, I think one of the things that so to answer your question, the first question, what makes you a number one wideout? In my opinion, I think first off, you have to know how to run, the entire route tree. You have to be able to make every single weapon available to you in terms of running routes and getting the stem on the on the defensive backs, getting off the jam, being able to get off the jam consistently, doing all these things, and then on top of that, making the big play or make coming through for your quarterback when they really need you. I think that's what makes you a number one wideout. Um, Not just being a guy who runs a street fly route or one person who runs a post or drags, shallow drags, anything like that. Like you have everything available from short to intermediate to long. So with that being said, from the time that I've seen Pryor, uh, he's used first off he used his height to an advantage in certain situations. He's also been able to uh, showcase his strong. He hasn't made any leaping catches when I was around him. However, it's self-explanatory. I didn't see it last year, so I know he hasn't. But Pryor's has been able to make 5 to 10 yard in routes look very easy
Right.
against the people that he's checking. I mean, the people that's checking him. Um, he's able to come down with strong hands, things like that. He's had some battles with Bashard Breeland and Josh Norman that they haven't really shown. Like it's a lot of catches that's made with Pryor, and those videos come out.
He
But
uses his
Josh,
body really well. Is my impression from
yeah,
watching camp this year. He's big and he really knows how to use his size. I don't think he's the best route runner in the world. He does round off some patterns and whatnot. He's obviously getting better, but he's fast. He's big and he uses his size really well. Montel, what do you think?
TP is a guy that I'm very high on coming into the season. I mean, if you can drop 1,000 yards with Cody Kessler and Robert Griffin III, just imagine what he's going to do with Kirk Cousins. I mean, I got a chance to see him play live. Me and Jamal both went to the Redskins and Browns game last year, and he gave Josh Norman some fits. A number one receiver, to answer the question, though, is a guy that demands a double team. Is Terrell Pryor that? I think he has all of the intangibles to be. We have yet to see that because he is very raw at this point in his career. He's 28, 29 years old, and this is only his second year of really getting a chance to show himself and show his skills. But I am high on him. Like you mentioned, he's big, he's fast, he can run all the routes. He's not the greatest route runner. He's not the greatest running after the catch, but he is a guy that's going to demand double teams. And I think a lot of people, they always mention, oh, we lost Pierre and we lost Deshaun Jackson. Granted, those are huge losses, but you still have Jordan Reed and you still have Jamison Crowder. A lot of people forget about that. Jordan Reed is a huge red zone threat. I think we got to be a little bit more creative in the red zone as a team as far as play calling, but I do think those big guys, those 6'5" guys, and Josh Doxson being able to jump out of the gym as if he is 6'5", they make it a little bit easier in the red zone because they are red zone threats. But TP is a guy who can stretch the field. I think that he's very underrated when it comes to that. He can stretch the field. He can run the short routes. He can be a possession receiver. He can be a big play threat. So he has all of the intangibles to be a number one receiver. We just got to see it come into action here at Redskins Park.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
will. I will note right quick though. I did for the first time saw him drop a pass today too, and it was a pretty easy one. Yesterday, I saw him drop a pass. It was a pretty easy one, and that's another thing that people talk about too is that he had in I A lot of people seen him in Cleveland, but he had issues with
I
pass
must have missed those.
Well,
I
it's
missed
funny you say that.
So
It's funny you say that, Jamal, because I happen to have this. Um, if you look at his catch percentage last year, he was at about 55%. And having just written a really long Jordan Reed article in which I featured catch percentage, I actually know what they really should be. And if you the elite wide receivers in the NFL and the folks that are at the top of that list are in the mid to upper 70s in terms of catches. Now, running backs are at 90%. I'm talking about receivers and pass catching tight ends. He's at least, who knows why his percentage is down. Maybe they were bad passes. Maybe got a hand on it and the receiver and the corner made a play. I don't know. But his catch percentage is significantly lower than you would want for a guy who's sort of a number one receiver. Now, I don't dispute anything you guys say. I think he's got the look to it. From a statistical standpoint, he's not really there yet. He wasn't there in Cleveland. 1,007 yards on the season was good for 27th in the NFL. 22nd in the NFL. His 77 catches was good for 27th in the NFL. Yards per reception, 13.1. That's 52nd in the NFL. And Yak, as Montel said, he's just not. Yak isn't his thing. He was really down towards the bottom of the pack with Yak. So he has the look.
I think one of the.
Go ahead. Well, I just said he's got the look, but from a statistical production standpoint, he actually has a long way to go before anybody's going to consider him to be a number one receiver. And so I think what happens probably is we start the year off, he's not going to get that double coverage that you're talking about. He's going to have to prove it, and if the year goes well for him, that's a different story. But, as long as Jordan Reed is out there and his toe is still attached to his foot, Jordan is going to be the guy that's getting double coverage. Well, am I wrong in thinking that's a concern? His toe's been a problem for a year.
Yeah, and that's one of the issues. I felt like it was. I don't understand why, if anything, if it's been there for a year, it's okay to say it just happened before camp, but for you to say that he has to go on a PUP and that it's been around for a year, then that's just something that cause for concern. But in terms of Terrell, I was going to say when you were talking that I do agree with what you're saying in terms of he has to prove that he can be a number one receiver. I think he can be. That's my opinion. But at the same time, I do think that right now, because I literally had this conversation with people on Twitter. I asked Redskins fans specifically because I want to see how their minds think. Is Terrell Pryor going to be a top 10 receiver this year? Some of these people say a top 5. I say a top 10. You have to be elite. You can still be a top. You can still be a number one target, number one receiver, and still be top 16. And that's where I had Terrell Pryor. I said he's going to be top 16 receiver this year.
Yeah,
and that's really good off that alone, being top 16 wide receiver.
Top 5. I mean, those people are smoking the Redskins themed ganja if they think he's going to be top 5.
A lot of people felt he could be top 10 and top 5.
Let me just tell you what the top 5 receivers are. Odell Beckham? No, he's not there.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's what I was about to say. Let me tell you guys, statistically, the audience I'm talking about, what a top 5 receiver is. Larry Fitzgerald, Antonio Brown, Odell Beckham, Julian Edelman. These guys, Edelman had 98 catches. All the rest of them were over 100. Jordy Nelson, 97 catches. T.Y. Hilton is in there, 91 catches. Total yardage, T.Y. Hilton was leading the NFL over 1,400 yards. Beckham over 1,300 yards, almost 1,400 yards. Yards per reception. Deshaun Jackson was at almost 18. T.Y. Hilton almost 16. These are the guys. Yak. Yak over 5. I mean, these are top 5, top 10 numbers. That is not what Terrell Pryor has proven thus far. And by
so we'll figure it out.
Yeah, and by the way, on Reed, because we on the Hogs are nerdy enough to keep all this stuff. I went back and looked at the Week 17 Redskins injury report, and Jordan Reed is on there for a shoulder, but not a toe. So whatever problem he's had, he has been hiding it from the public. Either he or the Redskins have been hiding it. So, take that for what you will, and let's not get the Redskins in trouble.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah. Well, since we're on,
they was nice enough to put us out there in training camp, man. Let's not.
Why don't we talk about Why don't we talk about Josh Doxson here, Jamal? Because we're on receivers. Jamal, what'd you see in Doxson?
Oh, okay. Josh, again, I want to say it was in the training camp notes the first time I went down there. I told people, do not be concerned about Josh Doxson and any injuries lingering. That's not is he has no, it's second thought to him. He's not even thinking about no injuries. You can tell on the field. His explosiveness is there. You can see it. The obviously the leaping ability is there. He attacks the ball pretty well too. And everything that you've seen from TCU days, he's been making out there. He hasn't made those outstanding plays where he's jumping 5 feet in the air to make a catch, but you can see him in terms of his hands and ball tracking skills and the ability to find it and then secure it in traffic as well too. So these things like uh, what makes a receiver natural. That's exactly what Josh Doxson has been showing. He's a natural receiver, and I'm just glad the Achilles injury is behind him. So Josh Doxson has been looking good. Everything that you've seen from TCU, he's out there.
Well, he's got
He's out there.
his highlight films are unbelievable. Montel, are you a Josh Doxson fan or are you not a Josh Doxson fan?
I am not a fan of any rookies, in all honesty. I'm a little harder on rookies. Granted, I'm going to root for him. He was very talented coming out of TCU, but it's hard for me to take your word, Jamal, and say that I'm not going to be worried about his injuries. Same thing with Jordan Reed. It could be a very small, minor toe issue, but because he has a history of being injured, we look at Jordan Reed and say, hey, this could be big. Same thing with Doxson. He had slight injuries at TCU. I know he got injured.
No, I said the Achilles injury though. That's what
Right.
I'm
No,
talking
no.
about. I was like, he ain't showing
Yeah, I
it.
completely understand where you're coming from. But at the end of the day, as a fan, we are always going to overreact, even if it's the smallest thing. And until we see Josh Doxson can play a full season and be healthy, we're always going to be concerned. But I am a fan of what he did at TCU. And I do have high hopes for him. I know he has a lot of potential. He's another guy who's been getting a lot of buzz. I just seen a video that you posted in the chat, Jamal. He made a play on Breland. And I understand he's a talented guy. I've heard a lot of guys say that he's the most talented receiver on the roster, believe it or not. Um, but like I said, we got to see it on the field on Sundays, and we got to see him 100% healthy. And until I see that, I'm not going to, crown this guy at all yet. I'm going to remain, a little pessimistic on Josh Doxson because sometimes when I get a little overly optimistic, it seems to go in the wrong direction. So,
Well, it's worth saying that the national media has a lower opinion of the Redskins wide receiver core than does the Redskins fan base. The Redskins fan base are really high on Pryor in particular. Doxson, I think they're probably cautiously optimistic on. But the national media sees a bunch of question marks, and they're probably not wrong. Quite
It's
honestly.
definitely fair. I agree.
Yeah. Um,
I think the thing is though, when it comes to fan, like we have a different aspect than the national media because the national media has to say things like they lost Deshaun, they lost
right.
Pierre, so we have a bunch of unproven guys, and that's fair. But at the same time, when you know that the offense that is led by Jay Gruden has a great scheme, he's a great
He
schemer.
is.
But when you have talent at the tight end position along with your receiving core, you know what some of these guys are capable of. Terrell Pryor just came off a 1,000-yard season. Josh Doxson, if the envisions of him playing like how he did at TCU in this offense, if healthy, and then you have Jamison Crowder
Right.
that's still here. So a lot of us we see things from an aspect that they will never see in terms of the national media. They will never see what we know right now
And
currently. So it's all about having it click.
I think the fact that we watch the Redskins Sunday in, Sunday out, we know the guys who can really play that the national media don't give much attention to. Jamison Crowder is a very underrated receiver. He's very underrated, and I'm expecting a lot from him this year. He's capable of putting up 1,000 yards, 9 touchdowns. He is very capable.
even out of the slot,
Yeah,
not on the field every offensive play.
Hey, he was close to it last
I'm
year.
tell-
They didn't phase him out when it came to D. Jackson Pierre late in the
I'm
season.
telling
He
you,
was really
he
close.
is very capable. He made a lot of plays for this Redskins team, but like I said, a lot of the national guys they don't see the Jamison Crowders on our team. He's underappreciated in my opinion.
Yeah, that may be true. I think we'd be remiss though in not admitting what we lost.
Right,
Because
Oh yeah, I agree.
I read the combined statistics on Garcon and Jackson, but it's really not fair to just throw out numbers like that. Because I've said this on the show before. I think Deshaun Jackson is one of the best deep ball receivers ever to play the game.
very true.
I really think you can throw him up there with almost anybody. I mean, this guy is averaging almost 18 yards of reception on a career, which is just unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And he and Terrell Pryor probably have about the same 40 time, but I think Deshaun is a lot more elusive. Has a much bigger burst and acceleration, and we don't have that same level of home run threat on this team anymore. Now that Deshaun is gone, I think we've replaced Pierre easier than we replaced Deshaun, because there just aren't a lot of Deshaun Jackson types out there in the NFL.
That's fair. Because I think the way we look at it, we know that Deshaun Jackson has Hall of Fame. Like, he's a Hall of Fame deep threat. He has elite speed, elite ball skills. But the drop off. You know what? You're absolutely right. I don't want to, because I don't want to make it seem
Right.
like I'm a hype man for the Redskins. So I'll just leave it like that. But I do. It's like, from what I see, the drop off is definitely substantial because of who Deshaun Jackson is. But I don't think we will have a problem going deep
Yeah,
with the guys that we had. That's all. That's all I'll say.
Yeah,
That's
and,
that's
yeah, and I think you're right. And frankly, I'm not sure how much Jay Gruden
that's what
really
I was
likes
gonna
going
say.
deep anyway. Because I mean, if I was a coach and had Deshaun Jackson, I'd be throwing him a deep ball about every 5 plays, because the dude is just always open. I would. I'm sorry. The dude is always open.
That's
We
true.
just
No, I
don't
agree.
get the ball to him enough. So that's yeah, and that's just not really Jay's thing, and it's not really his West Coast style offense, I think. Um, Wide receiver, we're going to move on to running backs here, though. But did you have any other observations from wide receivers, Jamal?
Uh, not necessarily. Ryan Grant Ryan Grant was looking okay. Nothing spectacular today,
Isn't that the
but
story of Ryan Grant's entire football career?
and then Robert Davis. Robert Davis made a play where if it was live, he had an out and up on Quentin Dunbar that would have took his 80 yards out. So he's made a few plays here and there. So, but that's about it for today in terms of receivers.
Okay.
A lot of plays was made by Pryor and Dobson.
Robert Davis is kind of my pet rookie that I'm paying attention to. I'm rooting for him, because he's got kind of
Oh yeah, we all are.
all the physical tools to be really good. Well, let's move on to running backs, since we mentioned them earlier, and I think it's safe to say that Kenny Hilliard has got the number one spot locked up. He's going to be our starting franchise running back for years to come. And I hear nothing but laughs. No, I mean, Rob Kelly right now is the number one back. The depth chart was just released, I think, today as we record this Sunday. What'd you see in Rob Kelly, Jamal? Talk to us about some running backs.
Yesterday, nothing much. I wasn't really focused on the running backs, but I will say, because we did get a chance to, I did get a chance to ask him a question in terms of how he was improving this year, the first time around. So I think Saturday I asked him, how is he trying to improve from year one to year two? And one of the things that he mentioned to me, and you can see it sometimes, a lot of people give him credit for being able to make defenders miss in the backfield, and that's definitely valuable. Don't get me wrong, that's a great asset to have, because if your offensive lineman is messing up, you're able to save them sometimes. But one of the things that he said was that he's trying to trust in
Oh, this
himself
joint
more and trust
froze.
in his offensive line. And what he means by that was, specifically, if he sees a hole, take it. Don't worry about making a bigger play. But at the same time, if he's questioning his offensive line, he'll sometimes he may bounce out the hole that he should have went into. So these are things that he has to focus on in terms of just staying disciplined. Because if you just go off the game plan, go off the script, there's things that you miss, and he missed a few things last year, and that's what he's working on this year in terms of being a better running back.
Well, Montel, for those of you who follow all 32, you know that Montel is actually a pretty talented high school running back and has a lot of knowledge in the position. So just talk to us, certainly more than I do. I wasn't a running back. Talk to us a little bit about what you see in our running backs in general. I mean, you mentioned Mac Brown earlier when we were intro on Kenny Hilliard. But what do you
I'm
see our
actually a
running
pretty big
backs?
fan of Rob Kelly. He's not a big play guy, and I think people don't really. A lot of people like the big plays in football. He's not that type of guy. He's a back that's going to get 22 carries and get you 92 yards. He's going to average about 4 yards per carry. It's going to be ugly. He's going to make people miss in the backfield, like Jamal said. But he's a guy that's going to get you 4 yards on first down and keep you in third and manageable, second and manageable. And that's what this team needs. We're a great passing attack. You just want to keep teams off balance when you run the ball. As far as Jay's system go, if you notice with our backfield, we got a lot of the same type of backs. We got a lot of big backs. We got a Samaje P. Ryan. We got Matt Jones, who has been the forgotten stepchild at this point because he can't hold on to the ball. But we got a lot of the same type of backs. You got those big guys because that's what Jay wants to do. He wants to be able to pound you. He wants to be able to pound you into submission. He just wants to keep his team in second and third and manageable, like you said, and take shots when necessary. That's what our offense is. That's what it was last year. That's what it's been since Jay has been in. But I think another forgotten piece is Chris Thompson. CT he produced last year and the year before. He's a guy that comes out the backfield and catches the ball. And I think that's what those other big guys have been lacking. Rob Kelly, Matt Jones, they haven't been. Well, Matt Jones is pretty good coming out of the backfield and scoring to the ball, but Rob, he can't really catch out of the backfield. I think that's the only issue. You want to be able to have that threat because it seems like when CT's coming in the game, teams kind of know that we're going to pass. Granted, we catch teams off guard sometimes, but I think that's the only issue with the backfield is you don't have that back that can do it all. Catch, come downhill, run you over, and break the big play. But like I mentioned earlier, uh, that's not what this offense has been catered on. I think they want that, and they're kind of looking for it, but that's not what this offense has been catered towards recently.
Yeah, Chris Thompson's guy. We have really haven't heard his name called almost at all in training camp so far. Good, bad, or otherwise. Jamal, did you see anything with Chris Thompson in your time down there in Richmond?
Uh, no, not really. It's not necessarily it's not a bad thing. He's just been quiet in terms of his production. He's been making plays, but it's not like standouts. And again, he's been here since 2013. So
Yeah.
so it's like one of the guys where you just notice, like for example, Trent Williams, like, and what I mean by Trent, like Trent goes up against certain people, he gets a lot of credit because he'll go up against Preston Smith or he'll go up against Ryan Kerrigan, things like that. So a lot of people, a lot of they boost up Trent Williams. When it comes to Chris, he'll quietly make plays against people too, but it's like they're just doing their job. Like Trent is really good at what he does. Chris Thompson is a really good running back slash running back receiver. He's a good receiver out of the backfield. So they're just doing their job. Um, Chris Thompson, like I said, no standout plays. He's just been making people look silly in the receiving game. That's about it.
Yeah, I mean,
But that's just what he does.
people forget that Chris Thompson has consistently had one of the highest yards per carry averages in the NFL, over the past 2 years. He really fills his role. He's a perfect Jay Gruden style running back. Jay is not the type that he's going to pound the ball 30 carries a game. He
Well,
has.
wait.
Well, I said he has no history of that really. After every press conference, the presser after every game he's ever played or he's ever coached, he said we got to run the ball more. And he never does. And it's just he does. He always
He
says it, he never
does.
does. I mean, it's facts are facts. Yeah, and he's just not gonna. And so I think, Rob Kelly, yeah, he can get you 19 carries for 93 yards, as you said. I just don't think this team is ever going to pound him 25 carries and have him be averaging 120 yards. That's just not how the offense is built. That's not how Jay Gruden is built. He's going to mix it up. He's going to rotate backs.
I think that's the best way to go. I was going to say too, in terms of Samaje P. Ryan, um, he he really is the answer to red zone woes. Um, and I wouldn't and I wouldn't necessarily expect him to be in on every single red zone trip. But when it comes to getting the third and ones,
We did struggle. We
second and threes,
struggled.
uh, fourth and inches, he's the guy because he has good hands too. He's the guy you will plug in because it's not predictable when he comes in. You can expect a power run, or you can expect him to leak out or the fullback to leak out in the flats on a play action. Um, or him come off the line from the play action and just get a curl at the line of scrimmage at the first down marker. So he's a guy where he's shown it I said in preseason in training camp. Like for example, I took a note yesterday where he's shown a great amount of strength two different times. I think the first time uh, he dragged like two or three guys after a play where they was tackling yesterday. He dragged them like 2 or 3 yards before the whistle was blown. I said he dragged 2 or 3 guys for like 5 yards before the whistle was blown. And then on another play, I think it took like I want to say about
That's crazy.
5 guys to stop his momentum.
Yeah,
4 guys
well,
to stop his momentum, something like that.
it's. I'm glad you mentioned this because I think it's a fact that if you look at the Redskins' play calling over the past 3 years since Jay's been here, that they just don't run enough inside the 5. On the first and goal, the second and goals, they really don't run the ball very much straight up the A gap. We just don't see the team line up and hit that. Line up and try to hit that. Now it's a chicken or an egg. It's sort of the chicken or an egg argument. The question is, does Jay do it? Not do it because he knows he doesn't have the personnel for it, or does he not do it because he just doesn't like it? And so if Samaje Perine is the answer to that, I think everybody will applaud some more varied play calling inside the red zone, it seems to me. Now, Jamal, you stood right next to Perine. I've always called him a bowling ball. Is he built? Is he built like that? What does he look like in person?
Just bear with me because it's my first time really like describing a player. But I guess when you look at Samaje, first and foremost, the guy is. I mean, he is built. His forearms are massive. And I guess the strength in his forearms is something that's also outstanding because down there he fumbled when I left, but they tried to rip the ball out of his hands like 50,000 times, and nobody got close. Nobody got a hand under the ball. Like it was hindsight when it came to Samaje Perine. But up close, man, he's a 5'10", just what's the guy name? I want to say Derek Ward.
With the Giants? Yeah.
The Giants, something like that. He was built like that, or Michael Turner. He was built like that too, like a young like old one who got a little fat.
Old busted up and broken down Michael Turner.
Yeah, the San Diego Michael Turner. That was him. That was Samaje.
All right, so that's running backs. We'll see. It's a good report. Let's move on to tight ends, and the reason is that Jamal has a man crush on Jeremy Sprinkle. So let's start with Jeremy Sprinkle and tell us what you saw live in Jeremy Sprinkle that makes you think he could be such a weapon for us.
All right, so for him to be such a weapon for us, I think that what benefits him is the fact that he has great hands. And I say great because when you see these things in person, maybe I may be exaggerating because I've seen it in person for the first time in a while. But when you see these guys in person, I've seen him thrown at probably about 20 times, and the ones that were catchable, he came down with. He didn't drop any passes. He's caught a few in traffic, and I think that's what benefits him because the few things that he caught in traffic, he was able to use his size as a weapon as well. Like it's hard to really make a play on a guy who's 6'5", 230, 240, something like that, and he's still moving down the field at a pretty good speed. So Jeremy Sprinkle is a guy who has really good hands, and the fact that he's able to catch in traffic, he's a person that you can throw it to whenever you're in danger. In terms of a quarterback, when you're getting pressured on you and you have to get it to a guy, he's that safety blanket who can be trusted. That's what he's shown so far. The issues is the fact that, and I talked to Kime about it too.
John Kime from ESPN.
John Kime. He noticed the same things I noticed, and he also shed light to like the reason why he's making a lot of plays in traffic is the fact that he struggles to create separation. And his route running isn't up to par either. So these are things that he has to work on. He's struggling to create separation, but at the same time, things are getting really easy for him. He's playing a lot. He's playing very comfortable. And yesterday, I made notice that in 11-on-11, he made a diving catch over the middle in a seam route in the teeth of the defense. for like a 20-yard catch. Um, so these are things that he's just been flashing, man, and from day one, and that's why I'm really excited to see him play on Thursday.
I think Jamal's going to be the only one in the stadium besides Mama Sprinkle in a Jeremy Sprinkle jersey. This year it's going to be you and Mrs. Sprinkle
Hey
wearing
man,
that big 87.
look. The only thing that's positive coming out of that is the fact that if I do get a Sprinkle jersey, I know that he's gonna be here for 4 years. so so I have somebody whose jersey I can keep for a while and don't have to worry about him being gone next year.
Because that's good. That's been a problem with the
Yeah.
Redskins. It's a dangerous proposition to buy Redskins jerseys.
It really is.
All right.
That's why I haven't touched one.
Well,
Right.
clearly, the important guy on this crew is Jordan Reed. We haven't seen Jordan Reed, because he's got this, phantom toe problem that has lingered on for a year, which justifiably makes us all nervous. But Montel, assuming he's healthy, what we haven't heard your opinion on Jordan Reed. We're all huge Jordan Reed fans on this show. I assume you are, but what are your
Before
thoughts
I
on
get into
Reed
Reed, this Sprinkle kid, he
Reed in the
sounds
Jay
like
Gruden offense?
he's pretty good. He's coming along, but he is somebody I hope that I never have to see play because that means that Jordan Reed probably isn't playing or Vernon Davis. And I like Vernon Davis as well. But to me, Jordan Reed is the best player on this team. And I know that's high praise when healthy. When healthy, he is literally uncheckable. You talked about those top 5 receiver guys. If you look at it, when he's playing, I don't know any tight end that catches the ball and runs routes and makes defenders miss as good as Jordan Reed. His only issue is the fact that he can't stay on the field. But when he is on the field, he's literally uncheckable. No one can stop him one-on-one. I've seen teams try to double cover him. He gets open. He gets in the end zone. He's a big play guy. You don't see that at the tight end position too often in the NFL. You got a couple guys who make plays. None like Jordan Reed. He literally looks like a basketball player playing football. But I'm very high on Jordan Reed. Like I said, I think he's the best player on this team.
Right.
Unfortunately, we haven't got a chance to see him play 16 full games just yet. So hopefully that's the case this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly, in the NFL, I would take Rob Gronkowski over Jordan Reed, assuming healthy, and then the only other guy that's really in his category is probably Travis Kelsey. Travis Kelsey has put up, almost the same numbers as Reed. So you got to throw Kelsey in there.
Oh no,
Those
no,
two
hands
guys.
down. I'm
I
saying
think
as
Rob
far as
Gronkowski is
receiving
the number one
goes,
tight end
Rob
in the NFL in my
he
book.
has it all.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We've got Reed. Sprinkle's probably going to make the team. We've
Oh
got
yeah, they're gonna keep him. They can't cut him.
we've got Vernon Davis, who's clearly going to make the team. He's the old man of the group. He's from he went to the University of Maryland. He's from DC. And so the question really is, where does this leave Niles Paul? Because if we go backwards in time in the Wayback Machine 2 years ago, well, Niles Paul was going to be the starter. And then he got
Yeah.
hurt, and what was it, an ankle? I forget what he broke. If it was an ankle, he
Yeah,
broke
the
it.
ankle and then a shoulder in 2016, clavicle or whatever it was.
Yeah.
15, I can't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
so
no, 15 was the ankle. My
15
bad.
was the ankle, so he kind of missed his window to a certain extent. So
Oof.
does Niles Paul need to
Man,
go with
now's
this?
Paul. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I forgot he was still
Montel,
on
go
the
ahead, take a
team.
stab at it.
Uh, yeah, but I think I feel just like you said, Steve. He
So
missed
that
his
would be
window of
yes.
opportunity, and it's unfortunate because that happens in the NFL sometimes. He was very productive at one point in his career, but like you said, he literally just missed his window, and the best
Yeah, he was.
availability in the NFL, especially when you're not that great of a player, is availability. He's a good player, but he's not great by any stretch of the imagination. I do think his time with the Redskins may be done. He was a great special teamer, so he may make the team doing that, but not too much. Not too much as a receiver anymore.
Yeah, I think that, and the fact that there's no fullback on the team. And Niles is lined up in occasionally in the H back position, here and there. So they may, Niles could possibly carve out a role, as a quasi H back special teamer, and see them carry 4 tight ends in lieu of a fullback. So there's that. And I forgot, by the way, a roster addition. Um, that we recently signed this week. EJ Bips was signed to the tight end group, and he's one of these guys that even the Bips family didn't realize he was on the team. You know, so somebody call Mr. and Mrs. Bips and tell them their son's a Washington Redskin. For now until cuts come. So sorry if you're listening to this, EJ. Sorry, but that's what's gonna happen.
Look, man, make plays, get on the roster, man.
Yeah, beat somebody out.
Before the preseason.
Yeah, beat somebody out.
In terms of Niles Paul, I do think that he'll make the roster. Right now, before Thursday, I don't think he has anything to worry about. However, that's yet to be determined. We have to see what he looks like on the field. But the thing is, when it comes to Niles, you know what you're getting. Unfortunately, last year he only had 2 targets. I don't know why he just had 2 targets, but the thing is, his hands were okay in years
initially.
past. There was really no issues with his hands.
Well, he was a wide receiver, before he became a tight end. He's got good hands.
He was a wide receiver.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like with him, he's gradually improved as a blocker. That's one thing that has been going well for him. And then you also noticed, you mentioned the H-back appearances in the offense. That's something that I've been seeing a lot of down at camp. He's been lining up in the backfield plenty times. And we know he's a special teams captain. They love him on special teams.
Right.
So when it comes to Niles Paul, I don't see him worrying about a roster spot. If anybody has to worry about a roster spot, it's Derek Carrier. And he's the one who's coming off another injury, I think another ACL injury. He's the one that people have to really he's the one that has to worry about himself being on the roster. So that's the one person out of those 4, the top 5 really, that should be concerned about anything.
I think Carrier's probably not long for the team, unfortunately. Yeah, and not only that, but he was a McLuhan guy. McLuhan brought him in from San Francisco. That's tight ends. And we forgot, Mansa Garner, by the way. We had a film clip of him and Trent Williams, this past week. So he's another guy who's a rookie, and he's realistically looking for a practice squad guy. But before we move on to the Ravens game, let's real quick talk about the offensive line. Trent Williams is Trent Williams. He's obviously looked great. Jamal, have you seen anybody else stand out in camp, offensive line wise, either in pass defense or pass blocking or run blocking?
Somebody who stood out. Morgan Moses, he stood out. But not in the way that you would expect him to stand out.
I don't see, but you're assuming. I don't know how I would expect him to stand out.
Because I think what I wanted to do, I wanted to build it up. Like, okay, he looking good.
Not more.
I wanted to tell you,
just got paid.
He ain't looking good. He ain't looking good. But see, the thing is with Morgan to me, and I had to ask just to make it, a confirmation. Like, is my eyes deceiving me? Is it something that I don't understand about offensive line, per se? But the thing is with Morgan Moses, and this trend has continued for a few years now. He's been here since 2014. But the trend with Morgan Moses is that he's so inconsistent, and that's what I was hearing. He was inconsistent, and since I've been down there, he's taking his share of beatings in the one-on-ones. Sometimes team drills, he'll get beat. But then there's some times where it's really not a problem for him. He'll hold up pretty well. And for comparison, to make this fair, Trent Williams rarely gets beat. Like it's easy. Like I think I told you, Steve, and Alex and Sean last week. Trent Williams out there pancaking Preston Smith like he was a damn 100-pound linebacker. Like he was pancaking them with ease. There was hardly anybody who went against Trent Williams since I've been down there where he struggled, except for Junior. Like he's had issues with Junior, not consistently, but Junior has gotten the best of him a couple times. He was the only one really that's gotten.
Let me stop you right there real fast because we talked about Junior last week, so I don't want to go into too much detail, and we're running out of time anyway. But what I noticed this week is that Junior has kept his speed and his burst, but he's about 15 pounds lighter. And that's probably why he's maintained his speed. And so what I'm wondering is if you've seen any indication that his strength isn't quite the same because he's lost so much weight.
No, not really in terms of strength. And you got to remember too, this is also our first time really seeing him play. So in terms of strength, I haven't seen him in situations where in the past where he's um, used strength to benefit him in his pass rush moves or in the run game. So I haven't really seen that personally. I've seen him a lot in pass rush situations. He's also made a few plays in the run game. I actually tweeted out yesterday where Gillette at the snap of the ball, he was in the backfield for like a 3-4 yard loss on the running back. I can't remember who was the running back. I'll try and find the tweet. But Junior Gillette has made plays in the backfield as well. Um, but just not necessarily. I haven't seen strength moves. He's really explosive, and that's what's been standing out to him is the fact that he does have that speed going for him.
Now, Montel, you're the running back, here of the group, and in my opinion of our offensive line is that they're probably top five, maybe top three
Yep.
in the NFL in pass blocking, and I think I can prove that statistically. But run blocking is a whole other story. So tell us what you've seen in the Redskins' offensive line run blocking,
I
and do they
think
have
they
any hope
do,
of getting
but
better
I don't like what I
in
just heard about Morgan
2017?
Moses. I'm not going to lie to you, Jamal. He just got paid this offseason, and I really need for him to play up to that contract. But from what I've seen, the reasons we've been struggling as far as running the ball offensively the last couple of years is the interior. I do like Brandon Sheriff. But other than that, your center and your left guard haven't really produced as far as run blocking. We get a lot of pressure up the gut, up the middle, and a lot of guys on the backfield before the play even starts, which is why Rob Kelly has a reputation for making guys miss in the backfield. That should never be the case. But he has a reputation for making guys miss in the backfield because it's always somebody in the backfield. But oh, I'm sorry, guys, I had to stop something on my computer. But no, I do like Sheriff and I do like Trent, and I do agree with you as far as pass blocking goes. We're second to only a few couple teams, of course, the Cowboys and maybe the Oakland Raiders.
Right. Hey, listen, I can prove you
Really?
that the
I would
Redskins'
have to see
offensive
those.
line is
I
more
got to see those
successful in pass
numbers.
blocking than the
I
Cowboys'
got to see those.
offensive line. Yes. Maybe that'll be
Hey, I would
another one
actually
of my
love to
long
read that too,
2,500 word
but
posts
in
on
all
offensive
honesty, yeah,
line.
we
I'll think
struggle
about
run
that.
blocking, and I got to see a lot more out of Morgan Moses this year. He has to step up. I think he's another player who has Pro Bowl level talent, but he has to live up to it. As Maul stated, he's been inconsistent. But I think he's going into his third year starting, I believe, so he's still a very young guy. I,
Yeah. Well,
Yes, sir. Yeah.
and the problem with Moses is, that we're stuck with him contractually through 2019. He's got the 5-year contract through
right.
2022, but realistically, he's uncuttable without the Redskins taking a cap hit through the 2019 season. So, for better or for worse, Morgan Moses is, he's got the job, and so it's not doesn't make me happy to hear that he's been inconsistent this year. Well, that's Jamal, do you have any other massive training camp observations you wanted to make
Let
before
me
we move
check.
on to the Ravens game?
Yeah, just a few things. I'll keep it quick though.
Yeah.
I noted that the communication in secondary is still noticeable. It still stands out. I mentioned that I saw that when Ryan Grant had moved over and motioned to the opposite side of the field, Josh Norman still came over and communicated to his secondary whatever it was, but he communicated to his secondary, the issues or what they got, what their assignments were, not the issues. Jan Ryan Grant at the line disrupted the play, and everybody else still took their task on. I think I want to say it was an incomplete pass on that play or a sack maybe. I'm not sure. Um, a lot of edge blitzing, but not from corners a lot. They've sent some DBs, Greg Minuski has, but today was a lot of edge blitzing with the inside linebackers, and we really don't get those type of looks. Especially we didn't get those type of looks with um,
Did you say edge
Joe Barry
blitzing?
last year.
Did you say edge blitzing from the inside linebackers?
Yeah,
Did I
from
hear
the
you
inside
right?
linebackers. Yeah, they were sending.
Oh
Yeah, they were
wow.
sending Mason Foster. Will Compton got
From the
on
edge.
us. Yeah, from the edge a couple
Hmm.
times. So Nate Sudfeld also, he wasn't looking good.
Because I was just like I was in a daze, and sitting there listening to you talking. That it's like, wait a minute, he just said
Yeah,
edge rushing from the inside linebacker. So
they they
that's
sent
different.
Mason Foster and Will Compton both got a share of blitzes on the edge.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so I think Mason Foster would have got home if it was live. Will Compton, I think he got picked up by a running back or a tight end. I want to say he didn't get home, but Mason Foster would have got home if it was live. And then Nate Sudfeld, he wasn't looking good yesterday. And interception in red zone drills
Man,
or
Am I the
2 minute
only one
drill.
that hasn't
So
given up
I'm
on
not
Nate
gonna lie to
Sudfeld?
you. I'm rooting for Nate, but I've
Maybe
heard
I
nothing but
am.
bad from Nate. So
You
I'm
think?
hoping he does good. But
yeah, he wasn't looking good the days that I was down there. I did hear though when I was following when I wasn't there, he had one of his best practices this past week. But that's just
that
one
is
day out of
sad.
the many
Oh
days
my
that they've had
gosh.
practice already. So it's been over a week and he had one good day.
See,
So
Alex isn't here to defend himself, so I'll just say that Alex hates Nate Sudfeld. You know, Alex has something against his family. I think Nate stole money from him. I don't know
That's
what the case
crazy.
is. Maybe Nate was dating Alex's sister. I don't know.
I mean the good thing is he's not here, so we don't have to actually hear it
Yeah,
because he'll
exactly
be
right.
he'll be
Because
celebrating.
listen, let me just. I haven't watched a lot of Nate Sudfeld film, but I think people need to not give up on Nate because he barely played even in the preseason last year. He's only a second year player. He has time to develop. And I don't think he's going to turn into the second coming of Ben Roethlisberger necessarily, but it's not time to give up on him. Let's talk real briefly about the first real Redskins football of the season coming up this week. We're not going to do a full normal game preview like we would. We will transition into our regular season, 2 episode a week schedule for week one, not during the preseason. Let's talk a little bit about Redskins Ravens. I personally, for me, I don't really care what the Ravens do necessarily. For me, all I really want to see is number one, no injuries, and number two, I want to see a crisp first quarter from the starting offense. I want to see him move the ball, score a touchdown, do well in the red zone, and show off a little bit of these new receivers and see him kind of do well. And defensively, get to the quarterback. If they can do that in the first quarter, I'm all for it, and I'll be
Yeah, I'm
happy.
kind of
What do
with
you
you on
guys
this one. I want
see
to come out
in the
first and
Ravens
foremost
game?
with
We'll
no
start with you,
injuries.
Montel.
And just to piggyback off what you said about a crisp first drive from the first team offense, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but from these last couple of years, 2015 and 16, we started off the season slow, and particularly Kurt. He started off slow against the Steelers, started off pretty slow against the Dolphins in
Yeah.
2015, and then he kind of found his groove like around the fourth, fifth game. I think that has to do with him not playing a lot of snaps in the preseason. Granted, you don't want to see him get hurt, but this year we got to kind of go into the regular season a little more crisp and a little more sharp because you got two winnable games to start off the season, and then after that, you got the Oakland Raiders and you got that Chiefs defense. So I kind of want to see us get the ball rolling and be crisp, like you said. And
Right.
so starting the season, we're not struggling against teams that we should be beating.
Jamal, what are your thoughts on the first preseason game against the Ravens?
My eyes will be on the front seven, specifically defensive line, mainly because defensive line and inside linebacker, but defensive line mainly because uh, we noticed the depth chart that came out. Um, Starting depth chart, Jonathan Allen is a first string, and that's nothing to be concerned
Yeah.
over because we've also said at the same time too, defensive line has a heavy rotation. So being named the starter doesn't really mean much. But my point is, I want to see what Jonathan Allen is looking like because uh, he hasn't really. And this isn't anything negative. I think I told you guys this last week too. He hasn't done anything special in terms of standing out, having great days. But at the same time, you want to see that number one pick
Yes, sir.
for the Redskins look like that number one pick, where he played in Alabama. So you want to see what he's going to look like against live competition in a game situation. So that's what my eyes are on specifically: the front seven, defensive line, Jonathan Allen, what he looks like in a game situation. because he'll be getting plenty of time because he's definitely again he's not starting, so he'll be getting plenty of time in this first game. You'll have a lot of looks from Jonathan Allen. They're not going to withhold him. He wants that. He wants the reps. I'm pretty sure Tom Sula wants him.
Yeah, and by the way, we didn't really cover the depth chart because, quite frankly, there wasn't a whole lot of surprises on it. You know, you know, as you said, Jonathan Allen is the star, but I agree. I don't think it's anything to be worried about. You know, but all the rest of it's sort of what we expected. You know, so we'll see what happens as the preseason goes on in terms of the depth chart. Okay, the final thing we had on our agenda here is we wanted to chit chat a little bit about the Richmond training camp site and what seems to us to be a continuing decline in attendance in Richmond. Jamal, it was before your time here, but we had the Richmond tourism coordinator on the show last off season to talk a little bit about the city of Richmond and whatnot. They were very excited when the Redskins got here. I'm not sure they're still as excited as they were years ago when the deal was signed. So, Jamal, you've been there. What have the crowds been like? In terms of numbers of fans and whatnot.
Look, let me tell you this. I'm glad that I went on Fan Appreciation Day yesterday because 3 days that I was there prior, it was nowhere near that. It was probably on this. It just wasn't impressive at all. Like just in general, it just wasn't impressive. Wasn't really nice crowds the first few days at Redskins camp. Now, I've never really over the years. I'm a diehard Redskins fan first and foremost, but I've never really paid attention to training camp attendance. That's not my speed. I don't know why. I wouldn't know why the attendance is down over the years. Steve, maybe you know. Alex may know. Sean may know. Montel, you may know, but I don't really pay attention to it. However, the first 3 days that I was there, camp attendance was not good. It wasn't impressive.
Even on the Saturday.
Yeah, even on the Saturday, it wasn't that impressive. This Saturday though, it was great. Like it was thousands of fans lined up, lined up. First off, they had them lined up around the block. On Fan Appreciation Day yesterday, they were lined up around the block before they had entrance to the camp. So it was pretty impressive yesterday, by far. The best atmosphere to be
Well,
at camp.
I can tell you, number
Except for
one,
the guy who tried to start shit with me after practice.
dude, is that something we
Let's
need
say
to
it
leave
right quick
off the air?
before you was about to elaborate. But so yeah, practice ended,
Go ahead.
and I'm
Go ahead.
glad. I'm really glad that Thomas was there. But so practice ended. Thomas Lawrence, our photographer.
Thomas, who is our of
Yeah.
yeah
So
of
I
N
just
of all
got up. I
32
got up off
fan.
my knee because my knee was killing me. I'm like, thank God practice is over. As soon as I get up, not 2 seconds after, I'm sitting here writing notes, and I was about to talk about. I was writing that Nate Sudfeld had a bad day. And that he started saying, "Man, damn, you got all this space out here. You want to sit in front of us, man? We fans. We trying to get these autographs and signatures." And I was just irritated. And I turned around. And I said, "Bro, I got up for 2 seconds. I'm about to get out. I'm about to get out your way." And then I finished writing my notes. And he like, "Oh yeah, who turn around like that? I know you're not turning around like that." So I turn around again, and then I was like, "Okay, my notes are done. I'm gonna just walk off." But
Yeah, just walk it off because we've had a lot of local beat writers on this show, as everybody knows, and we have talked on the air and off the air about this very subject with some of these guys, and they all of them
yeah,
take
man,
a
I
tremendous amount
understand
of
it
hell
now.
from the fans,
And it's
because they're
crazy
in the
because I was
way
like,
and all that.
in the first 3 days, fans have been okay with me because like I'll be in certain groups, and the fact that I was only on one knee because my other knee was swollen from football, I would stay on one knee for a long time. So I would get up for like 10 minutes during the sessions just to stand up, and then I go back down on knee. Fans wouldn't complain, but even when practice is over, I'm like, come on, man, give
Well,
me a break.
Jamal, I'm a little older than you, been around a little bit longer than you. Let me give you a
Right.
bit of advice. You're free to
Yeah,
take
yeah,
this or
I let it go.
let it go. We don't want
Because
nothing
the
good
best
will
thing, the
come.
best thing
Nothing good will come with
that
you
helped
arguing
me
with
was the
fans
fact
about
that first and
nonsense like
foremost,
that.
I was working with the Hawks. I had to remember anything happens to Redskins fans, the hog
There you
style would
go.
get blamed no matter what. So I had to walk away.
Of course, yeah, and we like our
Right.
fans, and we want
Exactly.
to. More importantly, we want the Redskins to continue to let us come out. So I'm glad you let it go. But okay, but more to the point here, it is an
No,
interesting
I did
story.
not
So Jamal
rap.
beat up a
Y'all don't
fan.
listen
We
to
got
him.
it.
Hey, funny.
All right, so anyway, Richmond. Let me tell you, first of all, why Richmond is unhappy. Richmond, the city of Richmond is unhappy because if those of you don't know, they are stroking a check to the Redskins to the tune of about $500,000 every year. That is a part of the contract between the Redskins and the city of Richmond. There's just this big payment, and now the idea was that the Richmond is going to be able to pay this big chunk of payment through increased tax collection. As a result of all the hotels being filled and all the cars being rented and the increased sales tax from all the fans. Well, the problem is that because attendance has declined, the city has all of a sudden had trouble in the past couple of years stroking said $500,000 check. And so they're not really all that happy about it anymore, as they were in the past. So we'll see what happens in the future. I think it's interesting that attendance has declined. It obviously has to do with partly, we've had a bad off season. Let's be honest. I mean, we've had the McLuhan disaster. We had the nonstop Cousins drama. The team didn't make the playoffs. The excitement level, I think, is probably not there as it was in like the peak of the Robert Griffin heyday. So that's part of it. And, and the other part is that Richmond just isn't happy, about the arrangement. So yeah. So that's that. So that's the last thing we had on the show, guys. Do you have anything else to add before we wrap
I'm about to
up?
say Montel.
Oh no, I'm actually pretty good, man. I just can't wait to get the season underway. The preseason is like a tease, man. I watched a little bit of that Cowboys game, the first quarter, and I said, you know what? I'm ready for the regular season. So I'm just ready to get it kicked
Yeah, I
off.
watched the whole game. I ain't gonna lie to you.
That's
But look,
exactly what I said.
hey, we got to make sure, Steve,
That was
to
exactly
make
what
sure
I
we
said.
include
Go ahead, Jamal.
Montel on our record, our season predictions too. So since he's a Skins fan, we already know on all 32
Yes.
who aren't Skins fans. So let's make sure we get Montel on the season prediction as a member of the Hog staff.
See, I got to be honest, Jamal. If I had known you were a Cowboy fan on the All 32, we might have had
but
a whole nother
here's the
discussion
thing, though.
about that
And this
when
is-
we set this show up, okay?
This is what
You
makes
kind
the
of
Hog
slid
staff
that
great,
by
is the
like
fact that
subtly on
we
me.
have an All 32 show, and there is no biasness on the show at all for the NFL at large, because we have an Eagles fan, we have a Titans fan, and we have a Dallas
That's
fan
true.
and a Redskins fan. Yeah, I mean,
You
he
just
don't
got to
make
make
the
sure
most
that Dallas fan
on
stays in his
shows.
place. That's all I'm
So,
saying.
he struggles.
He said he struggles. That's
to talk
crazy.
football. But it's my guy, man. It's my guy.
All right. Well, that's it. I am, of course, not on Twitter individually, so please don't find me. But you can find us at the Hogsty on Twitter, and it's at the Hogsty on Instagram too. And we've recently been posting a bunch of our film clips and photos from training camp on Instagram, so check us out there. Jamal, they can find you on Twitter at
the Hogsty. We had to change the handle right quick, so it's _Hogsty. Yeah, on Instagram.
What, on Instagram?
I was about to say I don't do
Montel, where can we
Twitter
find you on Twitter?
either, so don't feel too bad. Yeah, don't feel too bad.
Oh, okay. You're like me then. So please, but please don't try to track down Montel, because you won't be able to, and he'll be unhappy if you find him. So that is all we have for today. We will talk to you guys next time, and in the next show we will have legitimate Redskins game day football to talk about. So we're very excited, and until then, we will see you all next time.